Today I have prepared a few presentations for you. First, I will start with introduction about the postdoctoral fellowship call. We'll go also through some evaluation process. And then I'll go to a second presentation, which is more on tips and tricks, how to prepare a successful proposal. And then we'll continue with another presentation, which is more on the common mistakes that usually have been done by applicants applying for that call so that you can avoid them. But before we start, I would like you, I will send in the chat now a link, which is Map Your Location, is a Padlet tool. Let me send it in the chat. And I would like to invite you to click on it and map your location. In the meantime, I'll share my screen so that I can show you. It's very simple how to work with it, but nevertheless, I guess you see my screen now, right? So you just click on it and you will see what I'm seeing now. And then you have to go here. So add post and just type, or else you can use the map tool and drag it and then just publish it. Okay. Like for example, I will type Malta. Okay, publish and Malta will come there. Okay, I'm waiting for, okay, some participants already have mapped. We'll just wait for 2-3 minutes to see how the map will be reach on locations.
Lily?
Yes?
The map uses Google Maps, which probably could be really difficult. So we might not get a lot of people.
Okay.
But some people still are. But I'm just saying, just so you know, you're aware.
Okay, I wasn't aware of that. Wow, no why we have so many participants in Europe? Okay, I wasn't aware about that. Sorry, but yeah, it's using Google Maps.
Yeah, my mistake. I didn't think of that either. But yeah, like Google supported services that don't work, so that's why probably like it's showing a lot of participants in Europe because probably like most of those who are in China are not able to
connect. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, to connect to it. Still, it's interesting that like we are really having a lot of people connecting from Europe. So we might see more Europeans in China coming soon. Let's see.
Yes, it's interesting even to know what are these Chinese participants doing in Europe. Maybe they're doing the PhD studies currently there. Also, Marie Skłodowska-Curie Actions provides this kind of opportunity as well, funding PhD studies as well. Okay, I think we can now continue with the presentations, maybe. Still, we managed to get some participants in China, Japan, quite a lot from Europe. And I guess that the rest that could not, that simply could not map their location from there, these are participants in China. Okay, let me see how to get that. Okay, you do see my presentation, right?
We do.
We see well. Great. So I'm going to start with the first presentation, which is going to introduce the postdoctoral fellowship call. Then we'll have a short video prepared by the European Commission, and then we'll go with the evaluation process. So what is the Marie Skłodowska-Curie Actions in general? Just few words about the program. So it supports the researchers' training, skills, career development in general. Is completely bottom up. Okay, so any research field is suitable. You come up with your innovative, excellent idea, and you do apply for the particular course that are suiting your match. It is international, interdisciplinary, and intersectoral program as well. The so-called triple I's that MSCA really look forward to fund. It provides very attractive working and employment conditions for the researchers, But at the same time, is not only beneficial for the researchers, it's also very beneficial for the institutions that are hosting these researchers. And it also supports strong collaboration between the academic and the non-academic sector, the universities and the industry, basically. Okay. So just a quick introduction to the main schemes, main programs of the Marie Skłodowska-Curie actions. So we have the doctoral networks. I just mentioned it before. Basically, it funds doctoral research, PhD studies, and is a network of collaboration of at least 3 entities from 3 different countries. Then we have the postdoctoral fellowships, which is our subject of today. We have staff exchanges, which is also again the entities are applying, at least 3 entities from 3 different countries, and then the existing staff of these entities start getting traveling on exchanges. We have the co-fund, which might be also of your interest because it also funds postdoctoral research, and co-fund opportunities are available again on the EuroAccess platforms. And Msc and Citizens, this is an event, this is an affair that happens at the end of September all around Europe under the form of Researchers' Night. Let's start with the postdoctoral fellowship. I guess most of you are aware of these basic principles, but however, I'm going to introduce them for those that might be maybe are not familiar so much with them. So there are 2 types of postdoctoral fellowships. We have the European one and the European fellowships and the global fellowships. For most of you that are based in China, your interest will be the European fellowships, because yes, you should have also respect the mobility rule. So if you are applying, let's say in Malta, your host entity will be in Malta, then you should have not lived, worked or resided in Malta for longer than 12 months in the past 3 years prior the call deadline. So the call deadline is 14 September. 3 years before that, you should have not stayed, lived, worked in Malta for longer than 12 months. And this is the same for any other country of the host entity. The host entity can be academic or non-academic. Academic or the university, non-academic or all the others. It can be public body, it can be NGO, industry, private company, any entity that is involved in research. And as I mentioned, the calls are bottom up, so all domains of research fit for this kind of application. It's important to note that you can submit only 1 application. Okay, so you cannot choose a host in this country, then another one, you submit another application in another country. Per 1 individual researcher, 1 application, though the participating host entities can host as many as they want. Now, the duration of the postdoctoral fellowships. So minimum of 12 months, and maximum of 24 months for the European fellowships. However, since Horizon Europe started last year, there is a new novelty where you can add additional 6 months for non-academic placement. It's called non-academic placement. If you spend these last 6 months in a non-academic entity. Let's say, for example, you're applying with a certain university, and you're applying for the maximum of 24 months. If you want to increase with 6 months, this has to be done during proposal application stage, okay, not after. In the time that you are preparing the proposal, you have to already have an agreement with a non-academic entity so that you can extend your fellowship to 30 months in that case. Then we have these ERA fellowships. What is that? So there are some countries, such as Malta, which are called widening countries. Is a list of these are basically the countries, member states, and also associated countries, which are not performing as good as the old member states, let's say, in terms of research. And then the Commission is providing additional 8 million for this year's call for those researchers who choose those countries. And this is like a second chance for your application. Basically, you submit your normal application for the postdoctoral fellowship call, and then if you click yes, that you agree that you would like to take a chance in the ERA fellowships, is just a simple tick in the application form. Then, if your application, if your proposal receives more than 70%, it will be automatically, but not enough funding to be funded. Okay, so you're above threshold, your application is excellent, but there was not enough funding from the main postdoctoral fellowship call, it will be automatically transferred to this ERA fellowship call. And there will be no evaluation again. It will be automatically the top ranked ones will be funded until those 8 million are absorbed, basically. If you score above 85%, you will also receive the seal of excellence, and you may look for funding available in some of the countries. Okay, some countries do provide additional funding from national funds, not from the European programs. Now the call is currently open. Okay, you can already download the application form and start filling up administrative data, the part A. We'll talk about it later on in my slides. And it's important to know that the deadline is 14 September, 5 o'clock Central European time. Okay, if you submit 1 minute later, it won't be accepted. It's also important to note that from this year, there is restrictions in resubmitting your proposal. So if, for example, last year you have applied for the postdoctoral fellowship call and your score is below 70%, you won't be allowed to resubmit this year. Okay, and then the researchers are going to be employed as per unit costs, which I have in next slide. Okay, so here we have the unit costs. The living allowance and the mobility allowance, basically these are the researchers' salary. We have 5,080 euro living allowance, which has to be topped up, or in some cases is provided with reimbursement of receipts, additional 600 euros. However, you have to keep in mind that this rate, you have to apply the country correction coefficient, which every country has a different rate. In Malta, for example, is 88.1%. And I have calculated here that 5,080 euros, when you multiply 88.1%, it comes 4,475 euros and 48 cents. Then you top up the mobility allowance. If you are family, so if you are married or you have children that are dependent on you, you will receive additional 660 euros. Just to mention that this country coefficient is only applied to the living allowance, not to the mobility allowance and not to the family allowance. And also there are some novelties now in Horizon Europe, the long-term leave allowance. This is in case, let's say you will be, you need to be supported, but you have a long-term sickness longer than 1 month. Then there is additional contribution from the Commission, and the special needs allowance is for also researchers with disability, where additional support will be also received. The last 2 columns, these are the research, training and networking contributions and the management and indirect contributions. This goes to the host institution basically for hosting you. However, the research, training, and networking contributions will be also spent towards you, sending you on different, let's say, trainings abroad, conferences, consumables maybe, it has to be spent towards the needs of the project and the researchers as well. So yes, so these are the unit costs. 1 unit is 1 month, basically, and the budget is being automatically calculated when you fill in the Form A, the electronic part of the proposal. Depending of the duration of the country selected, the budget is being automatically calculated. Just some mandatory deliverables. Okay, this you can find them in the MSc work program. So the mobility declaration, career development plan. Career development plan is to be drafted together with your supervisor. There is some questionnaire that you have to mandatory fill in. Data management plan on how you're going to use the data, the data of the project. And also you need to have a plan for dissemination and exploitation of results. These deliverables are to come during your project, but for each one of them, there is a certain month that is specified as well when you have to submit them, basically. How to apply? So everything, all the Horizon Europe opportunities, including this MSc Postdoctoral Fellowship call, they're all available on the funding and tenders portal of the European Commission. If you just simply type funding and tenders opportunities, it will immediately come up. Okay, so you find it there. Okay, so when you click on the call, maybe I can, after the slides, I can just open as a live demo to show you like quickly how to find opportunities. But when you open up, you will, and when you click on the call, you will see that. Okay, so you will see the Part A, the administrative forms, which you can start filling up at any time. You can come back, the data will be saved. It's not that you have to submit everything at one go. And then you can, of course, on the left side, download Part B templates. So these are the templates that you have to download right away in order to start filling up and drafting your proposal. So the Part A is the structured data. Basically, there you have to fill up general information about you, the participants, basically you as a researcher, the supervisor, the host entity, the budget, which is automatically calculated, but you have to fill up the data accordingly. And there is also an ethics session and some specific questions as well. Like, for example, one of them will be if the host entity has a gender equality plan, which of course is something that you have to discuss with your supervisor and the host entity. But in order to be eligible for the call, they have to have it already in place. And Part B is the actual template. So the Part B, you have the Part B1, which is a 10-page limit based on excellence, impact, and implementation. And Part B2, there is no page limit, but here you have to upload your CV, the capacity of the participating organization, and this commitment letter is not relevant for you. This is only for the global fellowship. Now, let me just show you how to find the funding contender portal, maybe before anything else. Okay, so you just type funding and tenders portal. It comes up. It takes a bit of time for me, maybe due to my internet connection. Okay, here you go. So this is the funding and tender portal, and you find all the EU programs here. Find Horizon Europe, and then to find the postdoctoral fellowship call, scroll down, because that's for me the most easy. You can type it directly, but for me the most easy way is then I click on Marie Skłodowska Curie Actions, and then is loading. It's loading a bit slow for me now. Okay, sorry about that. Maybe I can refresh.
It happens to me as well. Sometimes
Yes.
it's slow, so we need to be patient.
Yes. Loading again. Okay. I think there is some problem here going on because it's taking too long. However, you will see it will be listed under among with other MSCA calls, but you will see it's written MSCA Postdoctoral Fellowship. Just click on it and you will find all the information about the call, and then you will also find the submission button. Click on it and you can download then the forms and start filling the part A. Okay. Now,
and Lily, sorry
yes?
to interrupt you, but we missed that today from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. European Central Time, there is a technical maintenance. So it
that's
says
why.
it's just over there.
That is why, yes.
We had a very
yes.
bad timing.
Okay, now I'm seeing it, yes. I didn't pay attention to it, yes. Now I'm seeing it, yes. Oh, okay, nothing to do then. Do not access the portal today then. Try it out tomorrow. All right, now I just want, before I proceed with a few final slides of this presentation, I would like to show you a video, which is summarizing the postdoctoral fellowships call. This video has been prepared by the European Commission. So enjoy it.
The Marie Skłodowska-Curie Actions are the European Union's reference funding program for doctoral education and postdoctoral training. If you hold a PhD and wish to pursue your career in research in another country, why not apply to the MSCA? Submit your own postdoctoral research project. Calls for postdoctoral fellowships are published every year and are open to researchers in all fields of research and from all countries of the world. You will need to submit an application jointly with the host organization of your choice. Who can apply? The MSCA Postdoctoral Fellowships are open to excellent researchers, including researchers wishing to return to Europe or restart their career in research. There are two types of postdoctoral fellowships. European fellowships will allow you to do research in an EU member state or in a country associated to Horizon Europe, regardless of your nationality. Global fellowships will allow you to do research mostly outside Europe with a mandatory return to an EU member state or to a country associated to Horizon Europe. You may only apply if you are a national or a long-term resident of one of these countries. In both cases, just remember these two rules. You should do your research in a different country to the one where you are currently living or working. Check carefully the specific rules. In general, you should have less than 8 years of experience as a researcher since the award of your PhD, although some exceptions apply. Apply for existing postdoctoral positions. Another way to become an MSCA Postdoctoral Fellow is to apply for one of the MSCA co-fund postdoctoral vacancies published all year round on the Euraccess portal. Check the requirements of the position of your interest and apply directly to the university or organization advertising it. What are the employment conditions? The MSCA offer an attractive salary and good working conditions. Your future host organization will recruit you. Your contract will include a monthly allowance covering your salary and travel costs and social security coverage. Depending on your situation, you might also be entitled to a family allowance if you have a partner or children, a special needs allowance if you have a disability, a long-term leave allowance if the need arises. The MSCA will also finance your training, research and networking activities. What are the benefits? As an MSCA Fellow, you will receive advanced training, acquire new skills and improve your career prospects. You will also gain new international experience and exposure to other disciplines and sectors. You may even have short placements in other countries and experience outside academia. If you need help to prepare your application or have a question about the requirements, you can reach out to the MSCA national contact point of your country or contact the Marie Curie Alumni Association. Apply now and join the MSCA community. Best of luck.
Okay, this was just a short video summarizing the call. And now I'll just proceed a bit with the evaluation of the postdoctoral fellowships. So the evaluation process, basically, when you submit the application, first the commission will make an eligibility check. And then there is at least 3 evaluators who will be doing the individual evaluation. Then there will be a consensus meeting between them and a panel meeting as well, where the scores will be also decided then of your proposal. And at the end, the finalization part is being done from the commission, where they prepare the final ranking list. What do you need to know basically is that how is the weighting of the different sections. Okay, so in your application form you will have the different excellence, impact and implementation section, and the excellence will be 50% weighted as 50%, where you need to where the evaluators are going to score depending on the quality of the project research, the innovative aspects of the objectives, the proposed methodology, the quality of the supervision is also very important, the quality of the trainings, the two-way transfer of the knowledge exchange, then also the quality and the experience of the researcher. In the impact, where is 30%, the evaluators will look for the measures to enhance the career perspectives and the employability beyond the duration of the fellowship. Then also the suitability and quality of the measures to maximize the outcomes and the impacts, and the project's contribution to the expected scientific, societal, and economic impacts. This section particular would have like lately is given quite a lot of importance. And then the implementation section is 20%, where you will need to basically list your work packages, the work plan, the Gantt chart, and also then the quality and capacity of the host institution. Nevertheless, that implementation and impact are weighted less. If you don't score good there, there is no chances that your project is going to be funded. So you need to try your best to complete each one of the sections to your best in order to get funded. Just a second, please. Okay, so the indicative timeline, just give me a second. Okay, sorry about that. So the timeline, as I said, the deadline is 14 September at 5 o'clock. Central European time. The evaluation will start, basically first there will be the administrative check by the commission, and then the evaluation will start between October and December, will be concluded. You will receive the results in February 2023. Then you will be given up to 3 months to sign the grant agreement, okay, but it can be signed even much faster than that. And the earliest that you can start your project is, they say April, but I would be realistic and say that the earliest will be May 2023. But then you are also given with quite a big window where you can maybe decide to start the fellowship much later, but the latest possible would be 1st September 2024. Here, you're going to receive my presentation, okay, all of my presentations, but here I did provide quite a lot of useful links for you that you need to go through. The work program, of course, you will find also the link to the call page. The guide for applicants is very important. There is something also newly created, the Msc Matchmaking platform. In there, you as a researcher can go express your interest, and then maybe you can be approached by host entities that would like to work with you and to host you. It works also the other way, where host entities are uploading their interest to host researchers, and basically is a good platform specifically dedicated to MSCA actions. Another thing that will be available later on in the summer, probably in the month of July, is a handbook, MSCA Postdoctoral Fellowship handbook produced by the MSCA Net project. Just look for it. Later on in the summer, it will be available online. And then the other links are related to my final presentation for today, where I will speak to you about the support opportunities and the funding opportunities if you choose Malta as your host entity. So now I would like to proceed with the second presentation, which is the tips and tricks for preparing a successful MSCA postdoctoral fellowship. Maybe before that, there will be any questions. Are there any questions at that point?
Yeah, we collected a few questions. So if you like, we can start with this few that are related, I think, to this first part of your presentation.
Okay, we can have some questions. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay, there are a couple related to the requirement of like 8 years of research experience. So they're asking to define what it means, scientific age of more than 8 years. And there is this researcher that says that he or she graduated in September 2014. If this person meets the requirements. So how these 8 years are calculated from the time of doctoral graduation or including the time of doctoral study as well. So these are two related. So maybe we can start with this.
Yes. So basically, it's being calculated from the time of the PhD being awarded, okay? But as I said, it's 8 years full-time research experience, meaning that if, for example, you have any gaps where you were not employed, you were not doing research after your PhD, maybe you had another job or you were unemployed, or you were on maternity or paternity leave, or you were in a long-term sickness or whatever, all this can be deducted from the 8 years. And or else if you had a part-time job, let's say you were working for 8 years on part-time doing research, okay, 50% of your employment, then you will be eligible because this will be considered 4 years of full-time research experience. I don't know if this clarifies the eligibility criteria.
I think so. I think you replied to the questions. Anyway, if there's any more doubt, anyone can send us a message in the chat box and we will try to solve your doubts later. Then what they're asking, who is eligible for global fellowships?
Okay, for global fellowship, you have to be either a member state or associated country national, or else long-term resident in member state or associated country. Okay, so this is basically you have to be living in Europe or be a national of Europe, member state or associated country, and then you can apply for the global fellowship where you will be going to a third country, okay, with a mandatory return phase to Europe. The last 12 months, so the global fellowship is up to 3 years, and the last 12 months, you have to come back to Europe. Okay.
Thank you. I think that clarifies. Yes. Then there's a question that we always get recently, and it's about UK being eligible. And I think, if I'm not wrong here, the answer is that UK is still in the process of associating with Horizon Europe. So it depends on how the negotiations will go. If it will associate, then yes. Otherwise, even those who were already selected will not be able to get the funding. So it's still a question mark.
Absolutely. Just to add here that they have to be associated by the time of the grant agreement signature. Okay, so if we just said that results will come in February, and then you're given a gap of 3 months to sign the grant agreement, if by that time UK is not associated, then the funding will drop. Yes, basically.
So let's keep fingers crossed anyway, because there's always like so many researchers that are willing to apply to the UK. It will be really a big loss.
Yes, otherwise applicants are free now to apply with them, but they have to wait and see what will happen then.
Okay, maybe we can take a couple of more questions related to the same topics. Another one here related to mobility. So is there a requirement that the country of application, so of the host institution, and the country of residence cannot be the same for like the previous 2 years?
You might have a residence in the same country that you are applying, okay? That is okay, as long as in the last 3 years, prior the call deadline, you have not spent more than 12 months in this same country. So you might be a resident in the same country, but maybe you went to work or to live somewhere abroad in that last 3 years for at least 2 years, okay? So you could be in the same country for no more than 12 months in the last 3 years. I know it's a bit complicated, but just minus 3 years from September 2022. So this will be September 2019. And in this 3 years period, in the country that you're applying, you should have not spent more than 12 months. Okay, but you can be the same resident, yeah, of the same country.
Thank you. I think that replies to the question. There's Bohandao, but I'm asking you please to send your question again, because I'm not sure I understand it well. Is again related to the eligibility. Can you please send it again, because I'm not sure I understand it. Then there's another person who is asking if it's possible to delay the move to Europe after like being selected for the fellowship. So like if this person is selected now for the school, I assume, if she or he can delay and go to Europe in March 2024. So not next year, but the year after.
Yes, the latest that you can move will be 1st September 2024. So yes, March will be absolutely possible.
Okay, great. So possible. Can someone who is running he or her PhD apply?
Can somebody who
is still finishing his or her PhD apply? I think we said that, but maybe we can
only if it is the PhD is being awarded by 14th September 2022. Otherwise, no, so it won't be eligible.
Yeah, you need to defend your PhD before the deadline, I think, right? Like you can be awarded it after the deadline, but you should have defended successfully before the deadline. So this year is 14th of September, as we said. Again, this person is going to get the PhD degree in June 2023. This year, you cannot apply. No.
Next year.
You will be able to apply next year, because probably the deadline is going to be again after somewhere around September. So it's
usually around September. Yeah. Yes.
And okay, I think we have similar questions. Let's take this one of these researchers working in Hong Kong as a postdoc. He's saying, I got an offer to come to the European Union for a 4th month postdoc. May I apply for this round?
Yeah, why not? After
yeah, there's no, I don't see any specific restriction or like anything that is like might be related to this 4-month postdoc that you have been awarded.
Yeah, absolutely. And also it's not like because you've done one postdoc you cannot do another. You can do as many as you want of them. So
okay, so last one from Shanshan asking what is exactly the meaning of coming back to Europe. I guess, you know, for
the global fellowship, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay, for the global fellowship, this is, like I said, is for the nationals of the European Union or associated country or long-term residents. So the idea is that the European Commission will fund your fellowship to go in a 3rd country, being America, Japan, you name it. You choose the country, of course, but then they don't want to lose the talent. So they want the researchers to come back to Europe. So that's why the last 12 months will be that the researcher will spend the last 12 months of the fellowship in a host entity in Europe. Okay, so this is the one that was originally planned in the application form, is the coordinator, the host, the official host entity of the researcher. That is the meaning of the coming back, to perform and work and live there in the host entity.
Okay, Lily, do you want to continue or should we get a couple of more? Like we are receiving a lot of questions. Sometimes they are redundant, so I'm trying to skip them because maybe we already replied, but we have, you know, like questions on small details. So you tell me if we take a few more or you prefer to continue.
We can take a couple of more, yes. Because I presume that for the rest of the presentations there won't be so many questions because this is more about the eligibility and so on. So okay, let's have a few more.
We take more, and then if we don't reply to all of them, anyway, we will have a longer Q&A session at the end. So hopefully that will be enough. Sure. So we have a person talking about global postdoc positions, so like global fellowships, I believe, and we said that like to apply, you need to be a citizen of the EU or long-term resident. And he's asking, is it okay if I get basically the long-term residency after the application deadline?
No. It has to be at the time of the application. The deadline of the call.
You need to fulfill all the requirements in terms of degree and in terms of like nationality or like residency before the deadline. This is the rule. So we have another researcher who is saying the first stage of his proposed research project is being financed by another funding scheme, and that is until December 2022. This person wishes to apply for an MSCA for the 2nd stage of the research. Would that be okay?
Yes, as long as everything is properly explained and justified. You have to in some of the sections speak of the state of the art and your experience. So then how this fellowship will help you advance the research and also your career. So yes, it will be okay. As long as, of course, you follow the steps and provide the explanation and the excellence of the proposed idea.
You might even have an added value because you're already like very concretely doing your research. So
yes, because it's also
like positive.
You have to also mention the references and sources and so on. So yes, I believe this person would have a good base for the proposed research then.
And then Francois is asking, what is the successful rate?
Okay, so usually successful rate is between 13 and 15% of the applications. And it's more or less 13, 14%. Does not go above 15, never.
I think.
Mm-hmm.
But it's still worth applying.
Yes, of course. These fellowships are very prestigious, so definitely worth applying.
Okay, let me see. This is again about eligibility. I think we already replied. Okay, I have stayed in the EU for only 12 months in the past 3 years. Eligible? Yes.
In EU, but in which country? Because the mobility rule is about the country. So if, for example, let's say you stayed in France and you are 12 months, 1 day by the time of the deadline, you cannot apply with France again, but you can apply with another member state or associated country. So it depends. It's also very precise, how the Commission is counting the eligibility, the mobility rule. Even 1 day more will make you ineligible. So yes, you have to calculate good, and if you stayed like I said in France, you can apply with Germany or Malta or wherever, you know. I mean, it's not the European Union, the mobility rule, but the specific country.
Yes, so this replies also to a direct message that I received. Of course, you cannot apply to the same lab because that for sure wouldn't make you fulfill the mobility rule. You need to apply to a lab in a different country in Europe. Okay, then I think we're having questions about the content of the proposal, but we might talk about that later.
Yes.
Then someone who received a grant from the Humboldt Foundation and is asking if it will affect the application. I think it might affect it positively.
Yes.
So you can apply, just remember the mobility rule needs to be fulfilled. Okay, I think we replied to almost all the questions. I will check them again. So those that we missed, we can ask them later. So I say we can continue with the second presentation. What do you say?
Yes, let's continue with the second presentation, and then we see again another session of Q&A after that. Okay, so now I'm just going to provide you some tips and tricks on how to prepare a successful application. So first, just the very general ones, which might sound simple to you, but trust me, a lot of people do make mistakes. Like, for example, the Part A, the online forms, okay? People wait until the very last moment and start filling it up at the time, on the date of the deadline of the call. And then they just, it's not that it's too much information being asked, but maybe there are certain things that you don't know, you are not sure. Maybe you need to ask your host entity about. So start filling the Part A early. As soon as you start preparing the proposal, you can always come back, you can always change things there. So do not worry, just start filling it up early. Download the correct Part B templates, those on the left side when you click on apply now. Why I'm saying that? Because many researchers ask for example, they know they have friends or colleagues that have applied previously for the call. They said, can you give me yours as an example? They start working on it, but things change, okay? From the template, for example, is not the same like the one of Horizon 2020. Now in Horizon Europe is different, but also from year to year, it might change. So download the correct template and fill it up properly. There is a lot of instructions in the templates, so delete them because they take a lot of space, of course. Under each section, there is subsections, what you have to address, how to address it, what to write. Just delete them after you are ready with the text. Do not delete them right away because you are not going to follow what is being requested. Fill up the information and then delete it. Yes, use both italics, use images, tables, but do not overdo it. But do not also use simple text there, and make the application interesting. Respect the page limit. So we just said that for part B1 is 10 pages. If you include 11 pages, this last one page is going to be disregarded, and no one is going to see it. Keep in mind the minimum font size is 11, okay, times New Roman. These are all in the instructions of the proposal. You will find all this there. Keep in mind also, it's very important that evaluators do not have a lot of time to read your application. They only have few hours. So be precise, be short, be clear there. And I would recommend that you submit at least 2 days before the deadline. Why? Because this call is very popular. Usually it receives thousands of applications, okay, every year, and the system gets overloaded, and sometimes it just crashes. So imagine if you worked hard, you worked for a few months, and you go in the last minute on the last day, and you won't be able to upload it. So upload before, and then if you remember something in the last moment, you can always come back and change it. You can like send the application a few times, and the commission will only take in consideration the last version. So don't worry about it. Submit at least 2 days before. If you remember something, just then go back and change it. But don't risk. Some more specific tips now. So of course you have to demonstrate that your idea is ambitious and goes beyond the state of the art. There will be these particular sections where you have to address the state of the art, and I would recommend that you create another subsection, how to advance the current state of the art through your fellowship. Your methodology must take into account, as I said, interdisciplinary, also the international, intersectoral, if possible, approach. The gender dimension is paying particularly attention lately, so you have to also talk about it, and you have to also consider the open science practices. Okay, your project should not significantly harm the environment, and you should respect these principles, and you have to read the work program. Okay, there is introductions in the work program where they're mentioned particularly some outcomes and impacts that you should address in your proposal. Describe the planned measures to maximize the impact of your project. So this is related to the dissemination and exploitation plan, but also it's good to include also plan for communication activities. We'll come a bit later about that, because some people do confuse these three: dissemination, exploitation, and communication. Demonstrate the quality of your work plan, the trainings, the secondments. I think I didn't mention in the previous presentation, but secondments are very much encouraged. They are not obligatory. This is not an eligibility requirement or some kind of requirement. However, they're very much appreciated by the commission and by the evaluators. And the secondments can happen in the same country or in a different country. And secondments will be usually, some people also do mix short trips and secondments. So short trips will be for a week or 2 or 3. Secondments will be duration of longer than 1 month usually. Okay, now the general criteria formula. So criteria stands for citations, resources. You have to include, as I said, citations and resources. You can do that in the footnotes of your application. Your proposal has to be interesting and inspiring. This is not a scientific paper. Keep that in mind. You have to make it interesting for the evaluators to read. You have to grab their attention. You have to be also tangible and specific. try to be as specific as possible in terms of outcomes. Like, for example, more measurable. Use numbers, not only I am estimating that that my proposed research idea will reduce CO2 emissions. This is very genetic. You have to be specific how and how much. Use numbers. Then also is important to always mention why, where, who, and when. Be as specific as possible. Why you are doing that research, where this activity will happen, who will be doing it, who are the target groups, when. Just be as specific as possible. Restructuring, this is basically, so the template would have these headings, which you have to address. But in order to make it more clear for the evaluators and more that they can understand that you have addressed this certain issue, also restructure by adding some subheadings. Illustrations, yes, use illustrate, don't overdo it, but do use images and illustrations. And be aesthetic by adding some bold highlights and making the most important part of your text more visually readable. So now, as I mentioned, it's very important to include a draft communication plan and a draft dissemination and exploitation plan, but do not include that in one. Separate these two issues, because very often these are being mixed up. So the communication, basically the communication, you are going to promote your project, okay, in general, to the general public, okay, like this project is about that, general communication activities. This can be also that you're speaking in some general public events, like this researchers' night, for example, or you're going to school visits. This will be considered communication. Dissemination and exploitation. For dissemination, you are going to promote your project results. Okay, so dissemination and exploitation activities happen a bit later in the project duration. However, in your proposal, you have to already think about this, and you have to already list actions and, let's say, tasks that relate to dissemination and exploitation. So dissemination to the specific target audience, another scientific community, for example, the results that come up of this proposal, how they're going to be disseminated first, so promoted to this target audience, how they're going to be exploited. So who is going to use eventually these results, potential results, okay, and how they're going to use it. You have to include short-term impacts and long-term impacts. So the impacts that will happen during the project duration, and then the impacts that will happen after, let's say at least 5 years after. Do mention previously funded projects and how you're going to use their results. There is a website, it's called Cordis, or else there is on the Funding Contenders portal, there is also another platform where you can access all the other EU-funded projects, and you can filter by your area, look for projects that are similar to what you're proposing. And do mention them there, and do mention that you establish contacts with them and see how you can make use of these results so that you do not repeat something that has already been done, and you start from another level, maybe using their already available results. Also, the same portals are also used for you useful for you to think of attractive project acronym and title. So go check there. I mean, come up with some ideas and go check if something already with the same name was funded. It's not that you cannot submit a project with the same name. You can, but try to be original as possible. It has to be attractive, the name you're proposing, and especially the acronym. And yes, you have to read a lot, read all the supporting documents that are available, because you might miss important things that are then will affect your proposal negatively. So I know some of them are long, some of them are very exhaustive to read, but do your homework. Now, another thing is good to start the actual proposal, the introduction part, to start with introducing yourself in 1-2 sentences. Just who are you? Who is the host entity? Who will be the supervisor? And then you go. So like that, you already explain clearly to the evaluators. Just you introduce yourself, not immediately. Some people just start immediately with the state of the art, which is then not, I believe, not that much appreciated by the evaluators. So after you introduce yourself, you can use then VPS or PSV. So what is VPS? You introduce then the vision, then the problem, and then your solution to the problem. Or else it can be the other way, PSV. You start with the problem, then you introduce the solution, and then your vision. Do not forget the vision, is very important. Also, I would recommend that you use I throughout the proposal, or let's say we, if you want to speak of yourself and the supervisor, but do not use that like the researcher. No, I plan to do that, or we will do that, but do not say like the researcher will be. Although is not wrong, but it's just more personalized when you use I. Try to sell the proposal idea. Why you? Why they have to fund you? You have to explain. You have to convince the evaluators that you are the right person for this project. You are the best person for this project. You have to convince them. And also, like I said, use photos and images, but even to your CV. You know, when you upload your CV, you can upload your photo there to make it more personalized. The evaluators liked to have this personal touch. As I said, add the subheadings, use tables, use figures, use images. Don't overdo it though, but just don't make the proposal boring with only text. And be tangible. How many, how much, when, what, as much as possible. Another thing, which is also very important, is that, as I mentioned, the evaluators do not have much time to read your proposal. Generally, they would have up to 4 hours to read the proposal, to score it, to write their comments. So it's not much of time. So sometimes they just go through the lines to see if this proposal will be worth even spending more time on it. So include the most important information in the first and in the last paragraph of each section, not in the middle, because it might be discarded. Work packages. Generally, always there is a work package about management that you have to include. So this is here. You can include, for example, the meetings with the supervisor, the reporting, and so on. Then do include a work package where you address the communication and then dissemination and exploitation tasks. Also, I would recommend that you include a work package about trainings and secondments, so that you clearly list them there. And then include a work package for each objective. So, of course, the excellence part of your proposal, you have to address the objectives. And to address the objectives, then link them to a work package. So each work package, each objective should be related to a work package. Then include tasks, milestones, and deliverables. And very often, applicants mixed are getting confused between milestones and deliverables. So deliverable is something like a report, let's say, something that you will be uploading then in the reporting system, while milestone is that something you have accomplished. Let's say, for example, you have managed to validate certain data through the lab testing, okay? And you managed, you've done it, so that's a milestone. You have reached a milestone. You have to think of these things as well. And yes, there is a particular requirement to fill up a Gantt chart, which is basically your the timing for each one of the work packages, for the tasks, for the deliverables and milestones. But I would recommend also to use this PER chart, which is to show the relationship between the work packages and the objectives, because this is very much appreciated by the evaluators. Now, recently the Commission has opened launched this Open Research Europe portal. This is a portal where you can publish your publications in open resource formats, basically there. And this, since is a requirement by the Commission, usually these kind of platforms are against a fee in most of the cases, or else it will take too long time for them to be published. But this is a free source, free platform by the Commission. So I do recommend that you also mention it in your proposal, especially in the impact section, where you have to speak of how you're going to communicate and disseminate your project. Also, in the communication part, do include the Horizon magazine. It's a free tool where you can include article about your project. Make use of these free European Commission tools, basically, and platforms. In the impact section, I also recommend you to list a number of policies and initiatives. Here I have included the link to the EU missions. I don't know if you are familiar, but these are the Horizon Europe missions. There are 5 missions. If you relate your project to one of them, maybe this will be an added value as well. The same with the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. This I have included the links for all of those. So after you receive these presentations, you will be able to have a look at them. Now, gender balance and gender dimension. Very often, applicants confuse between those two. Gender balance is the balance between the team. Okay, so in here we are talking fellowships, is you and the supervisor. Very often it will be difficult to justify a balance, but nevertheless, you might think of it because you might have more than one supervisor. And gender dimension is the results, how the results will, or your project will affect the end users, being female or male. So you have to think of it and you have to address it. If, for example, your proposal does not have any, your research will not have any effect on these different groups, still you have to mention in the application form that gender dimension has been considered, but it's not relevant for the proposed research. Just this one sentence will make the evaluators realize that you have thought about it. If you do not mention it at all, you will be penalized, basically. Be specific as possible. When you're mentioning, for example, I'm going to speak at this event. Which event, where, what is the audience that is being estimated? Of course, you wouldn't know in advance, but approximate. Or I'm planning to have 2 publications. Where? Which are the proposed journals? When do you think you will have them? The more specific you are, the better. And as I mentioned, use data, figures, refer to some statistics. All these things are very much appreciated by the Commission. Another thing is to answer all questions from the template. So very often applicants do tend to remove these instructions, the one that are listed there, and to confuse and to provide the information, for example, that is requested under such certain subsection, to provide it in another section. And then, you know, it won't be scored. It won't be scored appropriately, because the evaluators will mention if, for example, a gender dimension is being asked in that section, but you speak about it in a completely different one, it will be scored as you did not provide the information. So be careful about it. Communication and dissemination, I already explained. Yes, and you need to have at least one deliverable and one milestone per work package. And now another thing. Oh, my battery. Okay, so another thing is that if you include a non-academic placement, you will have a much higher
So I think Lily disappeared. She might have had an issue with her computer battery. Okay, let's wait a few minutes. Probably she needs to plug it into with the battery charger. Maybe in the meantime we can continue with a couple of questions that we received after the first part of the presentation. I think maybe some were already answered, but since I guess some of the participants would like to have a specific reassurance that they're eligible, we can go through them in the meantime. And so I have a person who was saying that he or she worked as a postdoc in France from January 2019 to January 2021. So I would guess 24 months. And then return to China. Can I apply for the global fellowships? Well, I would say that that global fellowships we said depends on your nationality and or if you're a long-term resident of the EU. But if you are a Chinese researcher, so like you return to China after January 2021, there's nothing preventing you to apply for a European fellowship, because yes, you spent 24 months in France, but that was earlier. So you might be able to just apply for the European fellowships. That also, of course, for the global fellowships, as we said, depends on your nationality, and you didn't mention this in your question. And then we have a follow-up question from the person that says that is going for this 4th month postdoc, I guess, exchange program in September, somewhere in Europe. And this person is asking, am I allowed to apply for postdoctoral fellowship with the same institution I am going to for these 4 months? And I would say if you're only spending 4 months there, and then the mobility rule, it's okay. And so yes, you can apply for the same host institution. And anyway, that will be later, so you can do both. Hi, Lily, you're back. I guess you had an issue with your battery. I also had an issue with my computer earlier. I don't know if you noticed I disappeared, and that happens. And so I just we went back to take a couple of more questions that we received after your first part of the presentation, again about mobility rule and things we talked a lot about. I'm gonna make you co-host, otherwise you're right, you're not able to unmute yourself. Let me do it. There you are. So you should be a co-host now, and you should be able to continue your presentation. Let's see.
Okay, I'm very sorry about that, but
that happens.
So I had to run inside, yes, and charge it. Okay. Yes, I was actually in the last slide of that presentation. Let me launch it. Okay, so yes, I was talking about the non-academic placement. So this is something, is a novelty. Back when it was called individual fellowship in Horizon 2020 program, it was not possible. But now in Horizon Europe, we have this possibility where I have mentioned that you can add this additional 6 months and make the fellowship up to maximum 30 months funded, basically, if you spend the last 6 months in the non-academic sector. And this is usually, now it was, the results came recently. We got the results from last year call, and it showed that those researchers who have included a non-academic placement have much higher success rate than those researchers that they did not include such a non-academic placement. So I do recommend and I do advise that you take this in consideration and you consider spending these last 6 months somewhere in a private company, in a public body, in an NGO, in an industry, whatever makes sense for your project. Of course, it has to make sense. It has to be relevant for the project idea. And do also include secondments and short visits. It's very rarely that you would have a fellowship funded that has no any secondments planned, no short visits planned, basically just staying in the same entity for the whole duration of the time. Include co-supervisors as well. This is usually being appreciated. So you must, as a requirement, have the one supervisor, but then you can add co-supervisors. And these co-supervisors, for example, if you have a secondment, you need to have a co-supervisor from there. If you have a non-academic placement, you also need to have a co-supervisor from there. But they can be also co-supervisors from the same host entity. And then if you have a number of them, then you do think of the gender balance then to address that. And then learning by doing, I have included that link where you can register to be an evaluator yourself, to be expert for the European Commission. Do register. There is no guarantee that you will be called to do the job, but do try because it's giving very, very, very good experience for then your future applications, even for other grants. And this is not like a full-time job. This is something that will happen if they invite you. They will tell you for how many proposals, what will be the duration of the engagement, and so on. So it's up to you if you want to accept them or not. Okay, so this was the end of that presentation. But I then do have another one that is with the common mistakes. So I would suggest that I go with it, and then we leave the last part for any other Q&As, if you agree. What do you think?
Yeah, I think the common mistakes is something that could be very interesting. And we don't have too many questions at this point. So let's go with that.
So let's go with the common mistakes, and then also I have the other for the Maltese opportunities that we have as well. So the most frequent mistakes when applicants apply for the MSc Postdoctoral Fellowship call. So first, they make a lot of mistakes come as a result of selecting the wrong action, the wrong type. So instead of European Fellowship, they will list Global Fellowship, for example, or the other way around. So pay attention to that. As I said, most likely, especially if you're based in China, you will be applying for the European Fellowship. Then very often there is mistakes in terms of when listing the researcher and the supervisor. This is not the same person. The researcher is you, the applicant who will do the fellowship, and the supervisor will be the professor who will be helping you and hosting you in the host entity. Very often people forget to include the abstract or the panel, let's say, for example, health or environment, or you need to include the panel, and the keywords are also missing. In the last call, there was a lot of mistakes in relation to this non-academic placement. Okay, so this non-academic placement, I repeat, is this when you have the last 6 months of to extend the project with 6 months, and you will be staying, you will be doing your last part of the project in the non-academic sector. And this is always often being confused with the secondments. So secondments, as I told you, it can happen if, for example, you're applying with an academic, with an university as a host entity. You can have a secondment to another university. Okay, it can be in the same country, it can be in different country, but the secondment can also be in the private sector. It can be in the non-academic sector, but the secondment is happening during the project original time frame, so between 12 and 24 months, while the non-academic sector is clearly the last 6 months spent in the non-academic sector. So there was a lot of mistakes happening in relation to that. Yes, here is how to add just a screenshot on how to add the applicants. So the applicant, it is the host entity. So you would add, for example, university, blah, 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 that's how you add the contacts. Then, if you have a non-academic entity, non-academic placement, you have to add this organization as an associated partner. But if you have a secondment, but you don't have non-academic placement, you don't add this entity as associated partner, only if you have the non-academic placement you add it. So you add there the details of the entity, like, for example, company A based in that country. This kind of information is going to be asked there. And also for the global fellowship, that's when you have to add the entity of the third country that is being placed. Also in part B, in the templates, there will be these two tables that you have to complete. So here you will be asked to provide some like the short name, the big number, the country, the name of the supervisor from, of course, the host entity, which is the beneficiary. And then you will be asked to provide these details if you're applying for the global fellowship for the third country entity, and also for the non-academic placement, if you have such one. And there is an additional role there for the secondments as well. So you have to encode them in these tables. It is clearly saying there, associated partner for secondment, associated partner for non-academic placement, but people do confuse them. So just pay attention to what is mentioned. And how to encode the secondments. The secondments are only being encoded in this table, not in the part A where you are going to include the participants. Many people do ignore these errors, but when you're going to submit your application, before that, you have to validate. Okay, so there is the validate button. You click on it, and then you will have, or not, hopefully not, but you might have some warnings that you need to pay attention and address them. If you have the warning in red, that's a blocking issue. It means it will not allow you to submit the proposal. So you have to come back, see what is wrong. It will explain you. For example, this is missing, or This is not, I mean, it will explain you. So do not ignore this, just go back and address them. And that is also another reason not to apply in the last moment. You have to apply a few days before in order to address these things that you might not even expect. Also, another thing is that I told you that the budget is being calculated automatically, but if you encode the information wrongly, the budget will come wrong as well. For example, the wrong duration. If your proposal is 24 months, but you select the global fellowship, it will come 36 months, but you're applying for European fellowship, the calculations will confuse. The same thing with the country. So if you're applying for Malta, for example, you have to include the proper the country so that it's being calculated automatically properly. And some also applicants confuse the secondments again and non-academic placements, because the budget will not change for the secondments. I mean, if you go somewhere, if you are performing your fellowship in Malta, but you have a secondment in France, you will continue receiving the rate, the unit rate for Malta. But for the non-academic placement, it will change for these last 6 months. So depending on the country. And that was it. So I don't know if, because the other presentation that I have is also very short. I don't know if you think it's a good idea that I go for it, or we take a few questions and then I come back to it.
As you like. The last part is about the opportunities in Malta, right?
Yes, that's why.
As you like. If you wish to continue, and then we leave the rest of the time for the Q&As at the end.
Okay, let's do that. So now I have prepared just a few slides with some opportunities in Malta. Basically, we have created this PF to MT scheme, which is Postdoctoral Fellowship Training Scheme for incoming postdocs to Malta, which is going to fund your travel and accommodation expenses if you choose Malta or Maltese host for your application. It is related to a masterclass training that will happen on 6 July. It's a full day proposal writing training. And we are going to fund your travel and accommodation expenses to attend this training. The scheme will close on 8 June. I might extend it with a few days, but for now the deadline is 8 June. And in order to be eligible, you have to be, of course, eligible for the postdoctoral fellowship call. But second thing, you have to already identify your supervisor. So you establish some preliminary contact with the supervisor. He or she agrees that is willing to support you, and then you can submit this very, very simple application form, which is 1 or 2 pager, where we will ask your contact details, the contact details of the supervisor, and a very brief project idea. But this is not going to be evaluated. It's just going to pass through administrative check, and we'll just fund all those that have applied with confirmed supervisor until our budget is exhausted. But for now, we do have quite a lot of budget, so I believe we're going to fund anyone that applies. What is the grant? The grant comes in a lump sum. Basically, we will not ask you any invoices and receipts. For those participants that are currently living in a third country, which is most of you, but not all, because we saw from the beginning of the event, you will receive 1,200 euros. We estimated that this will be enough to cover your ticket and a few days stay in Malta. For those that are based in member state or associated country, will be 800 euros. And we'll be providing 50% of the lump sum as soon as you attend the training, and the rest 50% as soon as you submit a proposal, no matter if the proposal is then selected for funding or not. All applicants are responsible to arrange their travel and accommodation and visa if it's required, but for visa we can provide a support letter then. And do check COVID-19 requirements. So for the time being, they have been lifted, but just in case, you have to always check because things change day by day. How to apply? Here there is the link. Okay, so you will receive that presentation as well, or it will be uploaded somewhere where you can access it. You just download the application. It's very simple. You send it to me by email, and the deadline is noon Central European Time of 8 June. And what else do we provide as assistance? We do review proposals. We provide personalized advice, but anything, we reply to all questions and clarifications that you might need. And applications, so we can review them a few times as a first draft and then more advanced draft. Of course, not if you send them last moment before the deadline. We can also help you with finding non-academic placement or secondment. So yes, we are a small team, but ready to assist you. Just a quick overview of the host offers that we have. So we have quite many from the University of Malta, and you can find them split by the academic field. And then we have also two private companies. One is a research organization dealing with energy. The other one, it is more on nature-based solutions. But this is going to be updated with further offers as well. And here, just the University of Malta, which is the largest university in Malta. And you can see all the offers split by areas. For example, when you click, then you see the professors' contact details and so on. I will send you these links even now in the chat, so you can have a look at your own time. And just to conclude with one short video, just to see the research landscape in Malta, and then I will be open for any final questions that you might have. So let's see the video now.
Considered Malta as your research destination. Malta is not only an attractive holiday destination and a peaceful place to live, but it is on its route to becoming a leading innovation island. Malta has made important strides in key technological areas by establishing the first regulatory framework for blockchain, cryptocurrency, and distributed ledger technology. Here is an overview of the Maltese science, technology, and innovation landscape. The University of Malta is the highest teaching and research institution in Malta and was founded in 1769. The university is made up of 14 faculties and a number of interdisciplinary institutes, centres and schools, including a doctoral school. The university is actively participating in and coordinating EU-funded projects, including projects of the EU's Research and Innovation Framework Programme, and is warmly welcoming Marie Skłodowska Curie Fellows. Based at the University of Malta, Takeoff is Malta's first technology business incubator. The programme is specifically designed to help innovators and aspiring entrepreneurs create successful science, technology, engineering, creative media and knowledge-based startup business. The Malta College of Arts, Science and Technology, MCAST, is a vocational education and training institution. Established in 2001, MCAST offers 180 full-time and over 300 part-time vocational courses, ranging from certificates to master degrees. MCAST also actively coordinates and participates in a number of Horizon 2020 projects. The Malta Life Sciences Park was conceived by the country's economic development agency, Malta Enterprise, to provide an international class facility for life sciences and information technology development. It is designed to promote research and development and to spur the growth of the life sciences sector in Malta, building on the base that the company developed in the pharmaceutical industry during the last decade. The Malta Council for Science and Technology, MCST, is the governmental body responsible for research and innovation, R&I, space, science and technology. Being the official contact point for the EU Framework Programme for Research and Innovation and the managing body of the National Funds for Research, namely the Fusion Programme, MCST has a team of national contact points ready to assist you in finding relevant partners, apply for funding or resolve your project-related queries. Furthermore, MCST hosts a Your Access Centre and manages the Your Access Malta portal. Your Access Malta is ready to assist all those researchers that choose Malta as their research destination. Be part of Malta's research and innovation landscape.
Okay, so this was just the short video. I think now we still have some time for any final questions.
Yes, thank you, Lily. And it was nice to watch this video also showing the beautiful landscapes of Malta. I think that, you know, might make it even more interesting to go there to carry out one's research project. So yes, we have some last 10 minutes for the questions. Since we were talking about like opportunities and house institutions in Malta, let me ask you this. Someone is asking if there is a list of house universities and supervisors existing,
yes,
and where to find it.
Okay, I'm just going to send you this page that I showed you from our Your Access portal. And give me a second. Okay, so I just sent in the chat the other one that is related to the funding offer of the travel and accommodation. Now I will send you the host offers, because these host offers that we collected, okay, from the University of Malta and the other two entities, these are experience already in hosting or applying for Marie Skłodowska-Curie actions. There, I mean, the University of Malta is the main university. However, there are few other faculties of other universities, or we also have an American university, but they have been recently established and they do not have yet experience in hosting fellows. While the ones that I just sent in the second link, these are entities with experience and they have uploaded their host offers there.
Yeah, and anyway, I think like those from Malta, as well as like all the other host institutions, can be found in the Your Access portal. So as we just showed you at the very beginning of today's webinar, you can go on Your Access portal and click on funding and jobs, and then there's a button called host institutions. So there you filter. If you're interested in postdoctoral fellowships, you filter the results through Marie Skłodowska-Curie actions, and you can even filter us institutions in Malta or in France or all the countries where you wish to go and to find a host institution in. And okay, so let's take another question. This is about when you mentioned, mentioned previously EU-funded projects in your proposal. And this person is asking, should I just mention EU-funded projects that are related to my research area? They don't need to be like projects where I've been a member in, correct?
Yes, you don't need to be a member. You might have participated in some projects. Yes, do mention those, because it will add value to the proposal. But it might be some projects that have been funded and you never participated in them, but they're very relevant to the topic you're proposing. And then you have to also mention how your project idea will add value to the previous one. Okay, so what is the difference that you will do?
Okay, so yeah, like mention those because they have been funded, so they have been successful, and try to relate yourself to those. And then this question, like, can I be hosted by two institutions? Like 1 year cooperate with the supervisor in the UK and a second year in Germany. How to solve that?
No, you cannot. The host institution is the one main institution, but you can go for secondment, okay, or for non-academic placement. But the secondment is usually up to 1/3 of the duration, okay? Like, for example, if you're applying for 24 months, then you'd have up to 8 months to spend as a secondment in another institution. And for the non-academic placement will be 6 months then.
Yeah, so like you need to select and identify one host institution where you're going to spend the largest amount of time with. And okay, so we have some researchers working in social sciences. And so they're asking, what is the success rate, if you know it, of like proposals submitted in this area? And someone is asking, is art and humanities projects welcome?
Yes, it's completely bottom up. Any research field is welcome. So arts and humanities are welcome. Social sciences usually have a bit higher success rate than engineering, for example. I don't have the rates with me now, but they differ a bit, not too much, okay? Like we said, the average success rate is usually around 13-14%. But
that's I think that's encouraging a bit, a little bit less competition. That's always nice to know, I guess. Then we are asked if the results of the project would be mainly academic and not the practical. And what if the gender dimension is just to add new knowledge on understudied groups? Would that be okay?
Can you repeat? The gender dimension.
So it's two parts of a question.
Okay.
Like this person asks, is it okay if the results are mainly academic? The expected results are mainly academic, they're not practical. And then the second part is related to gender dimension.
Okay, so for the first,
yeah, please go ahead.
So for the first part, I'm sure that there will be any practical thinking in your proposed research, because anything that even we are talking very basic research with this type of funding, but maybe eventually in the future you have to think this can be in a way turned to a practical, maybe it will be environmental kind of like impact, or it can be societal, it can be economical. Surely there will be something that you can think of, surely, but you have to just think deeply, think after the end of the project, maybe in 5 years time, maybe in 10 years time, eventually, if you come up with some good successful results. And then the gender dimension.
Yeah, so is the gender dimension, is it okay if that part is just to add new knowledge about understudied groups?
Yes, yeah, but in the application form, you have to just mention, you're not going to explain in that much detail these kind of things. You have to, what is important in the application form, in the proposal, is that the evaluators will see that you're considering that. You will not have much space to explain in very much detail these kind of things, but you have to just provide a general overview of the gender dimension, how this result will affect particular minority group. It can be yes or not. It can be a particular gender.
So I think the answer is yeah, totally yes, and it doesn't need to be like applied sciences for the first part. So unlike this person is also asking, can external work be carried out in non-EU countries?
Yes, it can be as part of the secondment, let's say, or short visit.
So you can identify and add the secondment institution in China, for example, if you're here and you have good contacts here.
Yes.
And okay, another about co-supervisors. Do they always need to be affiliated with EU institutions? So it's related.
They have to be affiliated to the institution you're mentioning. For example, if you have a co-supervisor from the same entity, from the same host entity, the main organization that you're applying, yes, they have to have some kind of link to that organization. Else, if you are applying for a secondment, they have to be also related to that entity. So yes, some kind of affiliation must exist with the entity and the supervisor.
Okay, I think that's very clear. Then we have a long question about the proposal and the excellence part. So part 1.3, training and two-way knowledge transfer. This person is asking here, should I specify some specific training items, such like a training for a certain equipment or things like that? Yeah,
absolutely, okay. Yes. So best is to provide a table with the knowledge transfer from the host institution to you as the researcher, and then another table where how you're going to transfer your knowledge and experience to the host institution. So for example, you would have, I don't know, expertise in this and this, how you're going to transfer it to the host institution.
Okay, and so related to this about long-term and ongoing training activities, how to fit them into the Gantt chart, GA and TT chart? That is a very specific question. I don't know if you know about it, or like maybe we can also say where to find the further instructions.
The Gantt chart is for the project duration. Okay, so if you have 24 months, you will have 24 columns that you have to create. And then if there is a particular training that is happening, let's say from month 12 to month 24, you just like map it with, let's say, different color, and you write their training on this specific issue. I mean, you can include a lot of things in the Gantt chart actually, but the Gantt chart is only for the duration of the project.
Okay, and then there's another question about like if publications are very important to determine the success of a proposal. This person is saying that he or she is author of only 3 publications published in international journals.
But if they're important journals?
I mean, he's in international journals, and then like he or she is also co-author of other, like several others.
Then list them all, even that the others are maybe not international, because this will be part of the CV. And yes, they do tend to look, evaluators do tend to look in the experience of the researchers and the publications that he or she have published. But 3 in international journal is not bad.
Thank you. Then look, it's I see it's like 12 in Europe and 6 in China. So maybe we just get really the last couple of questions because we're running out of time. But if you can stay 5 more minutes, so maybe we take a few lessons. Okay, great. And then okay, we have Venus asking if there are institutions not listed on the funding and tender portal and that are eligible for postdoctoral fellowships. So that like he can apply with.
What is important is that even if they're not listed yet, these host entities have to register and receive this PIC number, which is the 9-digit code. So the entity has to apply, upload certain information and certain documents, and then yes, they will be eligible as long as they're considered as independent entity and receive this PIC, and they are related to research. Yes, they will be, even if they're newcomers to the program.
Yes, probably the first thing you should do is to get in touch with the potential host institution to check if it's the first time they apply, if they're eligible, and you can proceed. Then we will share the PowerPoints. Yes, more people are asking. We will upload them on china.euraccess.org, our portal, within the coming few hours. You can find them there. And okay, another question from you, Zhao. So postdoc funding, I guess, amounts for different European countries are the same regarding the living cost difference? And does the monthly salary cover health insurance and tax?
So yes, this country coefficient, basically it is calculated by the European Commission based on the cost of living. So it is, yes, that's why the percentage will be different. The more high the cost of living of one country is, the most high then the country coefficient percentage will be. And it is very, very normal, and I think very, very good practice to have such a country coefficient percentage. Yes, the living allowance that you saw the figures of 5,080 euro without the country coefficient. On top of it, one has to pay the taxes and social security expenses that are mandatory by the and required by the national legislation then.
Okay, so from that amount, you need to take away what you will have to pay for health insurance and taxes. They're not, the figure is gross. And we have a question about addressing administrative risks in the proposal. Should they be included? Yes,
because there is a section in section 3, the implementation section, where you will be asked to mention the risks, and this will be risks related to the project in general. It can be something related to the maybe not able to access some data or not able to reach some result, or it can be also administrative risk. It can be a health risk, for example, another pandemic situation or whatever, anything that can disturb your project. So you mention as many risks as you can think of. Of course, don't make a huge table, but do mention risk, and do mention how high is that, how likely is that risk to happen, medium, low, high, and mitigation measures as well. What do you plan to do in case this risk occurs?
Yeah, don't hide anything. Make sure that you highlight or that you're like well all the potential risks and elements. Okay, Lily, very last question. I think you mentioned this already, but we have a female researcher asking if in case of pregnancy, it's possible to extend the contract time by 1 or 2 years, or anyway, a determined period of time.
Yes, it's possible. Basically, what happens is that once your project is successful, you have assigned project officer from the European Commission side. All these kind of matters can be discussed with that project officer, but of course it's possible. It's a very human reason to let's say postpone the project or to freeze it for a certain period of time and so on.
Okay, great. Look, I think we went through almost all the questions. I skipped some just because I thought they were redundant, or we already replied to them during the presentation. They were probably asked before. Anyway, for all of you who are still there and who still have questions that are unanswered, you're welcome to send them to us also through our WeChat group. I'm going to send the QR code in the chat in the chat box in a second in case you join later and you want to join the WeChat group. That's a good way to stay in touch. And I think we can close here. But before closing, a very, very big thank you to Lily Kankaya. It was like the presentation was really dense. There were a lot of information, and I think we all learned a lot today. thanks a lot also for staying a little bit longer and replying to all the questions. I guess, you know, there's a lot of interest. I think in China, there's a lot of interest, especially to this kind of fellowships. So it's really super important for us to be able to rely on someone like you with very specific and practical competences, and also able to provide some advices and you know, tips on how to avoid errors and how to try to be successful. Hopefully we will have a lot of successful candidates this year. There's a lot of time to work on your applications. So thanks a lot, Lily. Really a big thank you to you, and also thank you for all the participants today for being with us for this webinar.
Thank you from my end as well. Thank you very much for your interest. Good luck to all the applicants. And yes, I'm just going to send the presentations now, and they will be uploaded on Euroaccess China portal, because people keep on asking for them in the chat. Thank you once again, and good luck to everyone. And thank you to the organizers for inviting me and giving me that opportunity. Thank you.
Of course. Thanks, everybody. Have a good evening and have a good rest of the day in Europe. I'm sharing the QR code for the WeChat group right now. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you, Lily. Thank you, Anna.